Hello, 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 and welcome back to the next book in the Wrong Alpha series, book number 3, Illicit by Alessandra Hazard. So, this is not a direct continuation, but a direct continuation, if you will, of Feral, the book I reviewed last week in this series. So, if you haven't read it and you don't want spoilers for this one, or if you're looking into reading it because I recommended it in Feral, feel free to skip this video or just wait until you read it at the end. But this one does come with a little bit of a different warning in the top. Obviously, we're still going to go over some spoilers, so we'll go through those as per usual. But as far as everything else that's concerned with this book, there is a caveat, I guess. This is brothers who aren't brothers who are falling in love, but they believe they're brothers. I don't know how to describe it. Pseudo incest, I guess. I don't know. But there's obviously spoilers. The back of the book kind of does a great job summarizing the whole kind of dynamic. So we're going to be touching on the characters. We're going to be touching on the story overview, some of the story highlights, if you will. And there will be spoilers for the entirety of the book because I can't talk about one of the characters without really talking about the character. Because, this is even a spoiler right here, brothers who aren't brothers doing it. It's literally that. So, yeah, I don't know how else to preface this without that kind of a warning. So let's just dive into the characters and go from there, you know? So we have Liam Blake and Anthony Blake. So Liam Blake is coming off the former book, very publicly dumped and shunned from the Omega season, but not officially. He has been publicly abandoned by the Duke of Westcliff because the Duke of Westcliff is now in love with Jules, and Jules is now the one he's picked to love. And that's kind of where the book starts off with, and it's kind of a theme that runs through this, which is why Liam doesn't really actively participate in much of the social season until the end. But Uncle Wayne, because of this, is now their alpha, as Anthony has officially been declared dead, and Liam is none too pleased by relying on his uncle's kindness or lack thereof. He doesn't want to be at his uncle's whims for things like money and inheritance and the estate. And so he's, really trying to figure out what his options are. And that's why he's I need to get back in the social circle and do the social season. But because I'm now been publicly just basically dumped and rejected by the Duke of Westcliff, nobody wants to touch me. Something must be wrong with me. And so when Anthony comes back, he believes something is off because granted, the supposedly dead thing, is one thing, obviously. But he says to Liam, or Jules says Liam was 5 when Anthony was just home. So he doesn't remember everything that well. I mean, he does remember the kids and stuff, because I don't think they're that much apart in age, but he doesn't act like he should, and Liam kind of picks up on that. And Liam thinks he's defective for having a weak heats as an Omega. He's never really had a lot of strong heats, and he feels like that's a defect within him, amongst other reasons. One of the other defects we'll touch on is that he's falling in love with his brother. So Anthony Blake, quotes on Anthony Blake, was severely injured during the war and has taken a long time to recover, hence why they assumed he was dead, because nobody knew how to get a hold of him, and he didn't know who he was, and he didn't have his memories. So he gets too close to Liam, Eric, and Jules after... he gets close to Liam, Eric, and Jules after taking over the family estate from Uncle Wayne. He gets really close to Liam, but pulls away, leaving Liam in turmoil throughout the entire book, basically. It's a hot and cold relationship between these two. And he does subtle things differently that tip Liam off that something isn't quite right here with his quote-unquote brother. So let's go through some of the secondary characters. So we have Eric Blake. He gets into trouble after asking Liam for advice when Liam is in zombie mode after Anthony Blake abandons him yet again, and is essentially not gone for the second half of the book like I wrote, but he's less involved in the second half of the book. He has mentioned that he is left for Kadar, I believe, to hide from the public shame of having his nudes leaked, which is pretty bad for an Omega. So I get that, and he comes back in the third book. Eric's story is in the third book, so yeah. Jules Blake from the second book. I'm saying second book because this is technically book 3. So the second book was the last book we just covered. I haven't read the first one. I don't think I'll ever read the first one. But Jules Blake is happily wed to Devlin at the end of the book. At the end of this book. And during the entire Liam fake Anthony debacle, he's the one who keeps telling Liam that he's wrong, that he's broken for wanting their brother. And then Spoilers for the end. Jonathan Marsden, he was playing the role of Anthony Blake when Liam fell for him as an undercover operative to reveal Uncle Wayne's experiments and to get Uncle Wayne arrested. So he leaves Liam for months. So Liam just essentially tries to move on. And then he arrives at Jules' wedding as the Earl of Selwyn and rekindles his love with Liam. So kind of a lot, and I didn't really do a great job summarizing the characters, I know, but there's just a lot that I didn't want to touch on because there's a lot of like character development and intrigue with this as you read on. So let's go through the story and hopefully fill in some of these gaps. So Anthony Blake, presumed dead, is announced to be alive and is returning to the estate, much to the chagrin of Uncle Wayne, who is effectively taken over the estate. Once Anthony comes home, though, Liam feels like something's wrong with Anthony and himself. Anthony doesn't act like he remembers, and he's feeling this weird attraction to the scent of his brother, more so than you would normally have for like an alpha sibling, because Anthony is the alpha sibling to the three Omegas that came after Liam, Jules, and Eric. And Liam starts to think he's defective for wanting his brother in that way, that he's wrong, that he shouldn't be doing this, that he feels like something is wrong within him, something's wrong about him. And so Anthony and Liam start to have secret trysts in their estate. They shack up occasionally. And Anthony says it can never happen again after every single time, basically, and it always does. And then when Anthony leaves to confront their uncle, he is shot, and then the real Anthony returns to kill the uncle, which is confusing because this happens in Anthony's perspective, essentially, and then Liam kind of finds out when the real Anthony shows back up. Liam recognizes Ant, the real Anthony, immediately, and he begs to learn who is playing their brother. Ant, the real Anthony, is unable to say due to an NDA kind of program chip inside of his mind that prevents him from even talking about it for the most part. But then the real Anthony is still there, but Liam realizes that at that point he wasn't even in love with his brother. He was in love with a man portraying his brother, and that he isn't wrong or defective, but the real Anthony is hesitant to accept Liam's what's the word I'm looking for? Like marriage candidates that he selected, because he quotes and says, Liam looks unhappy, and you've looked unhappy ever since, you know, the real me's been back and stuff like that. And it's just basically due to the fact that Jonathan Marsden, the fake Anthony, has been gone, you know, and they kind of explained the whole plot and what was going on between the uncle and stuff like that. But he just straight up leaves Liam for months, not because he wanted to, but because he couldn't go back. Like, he was an undercover operative. This was a secret mission. He couldn't just waltz back in until the wedding, essentially. And that was when it was socially acceptable to be there and to explain things. And it's a lot more well written than I'm explaining here. And I also enjoyed it, I would say, almost as much as I enjoyed the second one, Feral. Illicit had me going, though. It had me going because, like, every time Liam would say something to the point of, this doesn't feel like Anthony, this doesn't, like, I shouldn't be wanting my brother like this. And I'm like, yeah, no, that tracks. That definitely tracks, dude. But if it's not your brother and it's an imposter, like, what is he there for? And then when it finally got revealed, I was like, holy shit, it was such a good reveal, which I just spoiled for you now. But, you know, moving on to some tropes, because we got trope time. So, ABO, I'm a submissive. What can I say? I love a big alpha man. Give me a strong, you know, meathead alpha, and I'll be happy as a clam. The dynamic really comes into play in this one with Liam and Anthony, specifically both the fake Anthony and the real Anthony, where the fake Anthony, like, I think uses his alpha voice at some point on Liam, and the real Anthony is like, as your alpha, I can't let you be unhappy, but, like, if you can look me in the eye and tell me this is what you want, I will, you know, sign off on this or whatever. And it's wonderful in my opinion. Just like the previous one, this does focus on the elements of courtship, less focus on the social season and more being courted, as it focuses on the two brothers, but I still enjoyed the discussions of chaperones and not allowing the Alpha Omega pair to be alone when Liam tries to start going out and dating during the social scenes to get away from fake Anthony and the heartbreak that he has. And obviously their forbidden love, regardless of your taste in fiction, I found this to be enjoyable, and I'm glad to see that Liam wasn't actually banging his brother. But the taboo situation really fits with this whole Victorian style of courtship and social seasons where, like, it's like, yes, he is your alpha and you're his, like, not his Omega, but you're the family Omega, as, like, you know, the other siblings are. But I liked how it's like the taboo relationship of, like, brothers, or fake brothers, I should say, in this kind of scenario, you know, and where it's like, heavily scrutinized. If this got out, it would ruin the family, that kind of stuff. Where it's like, it would probably ruin any family, but specifically with the Victorian style era of courtship and the beliefs in courtship. Yeah, I'm probably not making much sense there, but I enjoyed the forbidden love aspect is what I'm trying to get at. And especially in the more regimented society that has like courtships and social seasons and stuff like that. It gives me like Dragon Age Inquisition where you get like the Iron Bull there and everyone's like, oh, a Kunari, how exotic. And I'm like, bitch, I'm riding him every fucking day, you know? It's that kind of dynamic in my mind. And as far as rankings go, no surprise, this is probably not going to rank as high as Feral, but Feral was my first introduction to the series, and this one was a solid one. So let's go through them as we normally go through with the plot, the characters, the writing style. We'll go through the spicy scenes and overall what my thoughts are. So for the plot, I give this a solid 4 out of 5. I don't recall what I gave Feral off the top of my head as I just recorded it like 20 minutes ago, but as far as the plot goes, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the intrigue with regards to is this Anthony, is this not Anthony, and kind of going from there. The characters, though, I think is where the book really shines. And I say that, and it's a 4 as well. But I think the characters of Liam and the fake Anthony and then the real Anthony, I would have loved like a sequel where the real Anthony meets like the fake Anthony, Jonathan and Liam, after Jonathan and Liam are like finally hooked up and be like, yeah, this is, kind of weird. I just would like to have more after that, more character development, especially after the book, because like Jonathan, while he gets fleshed out in the beginning, he's fake Anthony, and so he doesn't get much time to shine at the end. He's just kind of thrown in and be like, oh, sorry, not your brother. The writing style, though, is a solid 4 in my book. I love this one. I love the way Alessandra Hazard writes, and I couldn't get enough of it. So I'm definitely going to be reading the third one whenever I get it, the Eric book. And then hopefully they write more. If they write more MM fiction, I'm there. If they write more ABO MM fiction, I'm definitely there. And then the spicy scenes is definitely getting a full 5 stars for me. I love the forbidden, we shouldn't be doing this, but we should, even though before the reveal, it's like literal brothers fucking, that they think they're brothers. And I enjoy that twist, that taboo aspect, like, what are you doing, step bro? That kind of thing. But again, if it's not your taste, it's not your taste. But overall, I give this a solid 4 stars. I think the other one was 4.5 stars. I'll have to go back and check. But it's almost on par with Feral, in my opinion. I liked Feral more because I like more of the Alpha losing control, Omega receiving kind of like dynamic in the beginning with Jules. But I did like the books. I like both of these books. And I'm really excited to read the third one because Eric is the underutilized character in these two books. Especially in this one where he gets kind of the drama aspect of it. So I enjoyed this. It was a solid read. It's, again, about on par for what Feral was. It's fairly short. But again, like I described Feral, it's porn with plot. And not like the Kidnapping of Sinclair, which was plot with porn. Neither good nor bad. They're both equal in my mind. I like them both equally. But I enjoyed this book for what it gave me. So as far as recommendations goes, I punched my mic. We have more in the series, and this is the only other book I can recommend in the series because it's the only other book I've read, which is Feral. I really love Feral, if it hasn't been made it clear, but I like Feral. You should definitely go read it if you like ABO romance. But if you like something more forbidden but in the supernatural, I would recommend Studies in Demonology, Warlock in Training by T.J. Nichols, because it's definitely a forbidden romance where the warlock and then the summonee demon shouldn't be romantically involved, but they are romantically involved. And it's a lot more plot with porn than this book is. And again, not saying it's a bad like in a bad or bad way, but I liked it because it has a lot more involvement with regards to the stuff behind the scenes, which I know I haven't covered this book yet. It's coming up soon. It's probably in the next round of books that I'm going to be reviewing. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that. And as I've been one to introduce now, you can follow me on the social medias ahead in your screen, the twitch.tv, twitter.com, and Patreon. No pressure. I stream 7 nights a week. I am on Twitter occasionally, and I'm on Patreon, where you guys can subscribe. And if you want to, for $15 a month, you can give me a book to review, and I'll do it. And that's by just essentially just paying for the book. If you want to send me a book, feel free. DM me on Twitter if you want. And then if you want to check out my streams where I play a bunch of RPGs and stuff, follow me on Twitch. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week ahead. And this is probably going to go up on Sunday or Saturday. I'll see you guys in the next book review. I don't know what we're going to be covering because this is the last of the batches that I've done so far. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week ahead. Much love, my friends, and see you next time. Have a good one.